Welcome to the Empowered Global Women in Business podcast. I am Elle Ballard, a bicultural woman, mother, wife, and entrepreneur. In this podcast, I will help you navigate entrepreneurship as women of the world, a multinational, bicultural woman. I will interview female business owners navigating the cross-cultural dynamics of building a business sustainably, ethically, and in community. In these raw and real conversations, I will explore what it's like to build a business authentically and on your own terms. If you are a multinational woman and ready to build a business authentically while maintaining your uniqueness and individuality, welcome to the Empowered Global Women in Business podcast.
Hello, everyone. Elle Ballard is here today on our Empowered Global Women in Business podcast. And I have a special guest with us today, Ayesha. Ayesha is all the way from London, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Welcome, Ayesha.
Thank you so much, Ali. So excited to be talking to you. Thank you for
Yes,
inviting me.
absolutely. Thank you for being here. Before we jump on, I want to introduce Ayesha first. So, BBC's 100 Women recipient, social entrepreneur, sustainable fashion consultant, and speaker on sustainability and women's empowerment. Ayesha's work has been featured in publications such as Grazia, El Arabia, Trend Hunter, FT How to Spend It in just a few years of starting fashion. Compassion. Ayesha is now considered to be a thought leader on ethical fashion and has been interviewed by CNBC Arabia, BBC, The Guardian, and Sky News. Welcome, Ayesha. How exciting! Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. And the first question that pops up, in my head and probably with listeners as well. Can we talk about what is sustainable fashion?
Very good question, Ellie. Because, a lot of people just use the word sustainable and it's not an easy word to understand. Um, Also, in fashion itself, nothing can be completely sustainable, but I'll tell you very easily what sustainable fashion is. So it's looking at fashion in a fair way, how fashion is made and consumed and marketed, and really looking at aspects of it. One is the environmental aspect of creating clothing and garments, and the other is the human cost. So who's making it? In what conditions is it being made? Are they paid fairly? So
Mhm.
sustainable fashion looks into the environment as well as the human side of creating fashion and making sure that those two are looked and done in the most fair way. And it's something that kind of doesn't take away from either the environment or the people who make it.
So interesting. I love that. I love that there is this
Mhm.
new emergent field that takes care of the environment and the people in it. It's about time, right? To
Yes.
love it. Thank you.
Oh
Thank you
yeah,
for
especially the
explaining it.
climate. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. And it can be
Yes,
very
exactly.
technical. But I think for most people, it's like if you put it in two buckets, it kind of helps you understand it.
Yeah. So it includes producing clothes from recyclable materials, things like that.
Yeah, so it's a big realm. It's about like, firstly, how if you're making a t-shirt,
Yeah.
how's the farmer harvesting the cotton? Like, how is it done in the
Yeah.
most,
Mhm.
eco-friendly manner? Um, then when the farmer is actually planting and taking the cotton and then selling it into markets, how is that how is it transported? So there's this whole, carbon footprint that goes with it. Then is the a
Yeah.
farmer getting compensated fairly for that? Then once it goes into the factory, it's kind of made into a material, a yarn. Like, how's that done, that process? How are the people who are actually working in there, how are they getting paid? What are the conditions? Then it actually gets maybe sold to a mill or, a big factory that's going to be sitting there and creating different garments. What happens to the garment from there? Is it dyed? Like when it's dyed, there's more chemical. Are they using vegetable dye? How much water are they using? How are the people who are working there, how many hours are they working? What are they getting paid for creating a t-shirt? Are they getting £2 or 50 cents or £5? Like, is it up to the national average? Like, are they getting their, health and like health and like sort of safety in mind for them? So there's so many things
Wonderful.
that can go into it. Yeah, but it's all about creating something with fairness,
Yeah.
where profits are not the main goal, but the goal is to create something that would be profitable for everybody involved, not just
Yeah.
the factory or somebody who's,
Yeah.
who's actually making it.
Social entrepreneurship reminds me of that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
beautiful. Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful. Love that. I
yeah.
love that. Thank you for giving the examples. And now, like we get the understand the whole picture of it. So I want to ask you also, based on your story, your own personal story, like what brought you to this field?
So, it's something I would say two things. My upbringing, because I lived in so many different countries, I grew up in different countries, and I saw how fashion was made and consumed. Specifically, I saw a lot of women getting involved in creating fashion. And, these women might not be educated, but they had a talent. They're women artisans as well, or women who worked in factories. But I always saw that there was a disconnect between the maker, who's actually making it, to the seller. It could be a big designer or whatever. And their stories were not communicated. These women sometimes were taught as charity baskets because they're not really educated, but they have a skill and they're using that skill. So I always used to feel that, oh, this is not fair. It's not fair that the one who's sitting there embroidering something or actually is a worker in a factory, she's getting minimum wage or less than that, but somebody selling it in a big shiny store is making all the profit. So this is something that was always in my head. I also had a lot of people in my life, like my father's really into philanthropy and giving back. So I always had that kind of thing about fairness. And, it always got to me when something is unfair. It just like, it still rattles me. Then I also saw like the way my grandparents dress, especially my grandmothers, and the kind of fabric they had from different parts of the world. And like, each fabric had a story. And then, they would take me to a tailor and they would make something and I would be so excited in the whole process. So for me, those were my ideas while I was growing up. And then I was living in New York and I was like 15 years old in grade 10 and I was reading the New York Times, and I remember exactly where I was sitting on a breakfast table and everything. And I read this thing which said, the bank that empowers the poorest women in the world. And I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And I read it, and it was about the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, where they actually give it's a microfinance it gives microfinance to women to start their own businesses, and one part of it was
Beautiful.
the Grameen check, which is reviving of the handloom industry. Anyway, long story short, I somehow convinced my father that I should go there to do an internship in the summer. I went there, I interned in Grameen
Wow.
Bank under Mohammed Yunus, who is like a Nobel Prize winner, amazing. Oh my God, imagine a 15-year-old lands to work with somebody like that. And I did a whole internship around the Grameen Bank, but one thing that really resonated with me was the reviving of the handloom industry and how they actually took these women, they paired them with supervisors, they paired them with designers, and they gave them this actual knowledge of creating garments, not just making them by hand, but like the color coordination, what the latest trends were, how do you negotiate on price? And then these women were leading meetings. They were like the big breadwinners for their family. And there was such a major shift. So I thought always that, when I can, and at that time I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a women's rights lawyer. And I thought, okay, somehow I'm going to go back. And when I can, I'm going to do something that would really help with, empowering these women, bringing their stories out there. And that's how I started with Fashion Compassion in 2011. I used to work for Pepsi in marketing. I did a lot of work with them on sustainability as well. And that work, getting that kind of, training from a big corporate and then saying,
Yeah.
okay, I can now use some of this to create my own business. So that's how my journey started.
Beautiful. What a beautiful journey. Thank you for sharing. I love it. Yeah, definitely can relate to the whole women's
Thank you.
empowerment and all of that. Beautiful. How has this journey been for you in building a business for yourself as a woman, as a multinational woman on a global stage? What are some of the lessons that you learned? It could be so many, but if you could pick one main one for our audience, what would that be?
I think for me, it's like believing in myself and trusting myself. I
Hmm.
think I have
Yeah.
always thought that I have to be perfectly ready, or like I need to go to fashion school to do this, or if I'm going into Selfridges and talking to a buyer, I need to be like in this magazine and that magazine, and it's always looking for like something that shows I'm right, I've arrived, I can do this. And I think I've just learned that honestly, you don't need that. If you have this conviction to do something, right? And you really, really believe in it and you have a vision. I think you just have to start going through it. And I think obviously you're going to make mistakes. That's how you learn. You can't be perfect. You have to make so many mistakes, and you should actually feel amazingly happy when you make mistakes, because then you know what you don't need to do, right? Like this one thing, okay, I can't try it. I have to try something else. But I think this feeling of not trusting yourself, or thinking as women that we have to be perfect in everything we do and everything has to be laid out before I take my next step, is something that I feel I didn't think like that. And I wish I was easy on myself about that. And this is something I'm really like, I'm working on personally on myself when I go to a lot of schools and talk to young people. And especially when I talk to girls, I do say that I'm very honest about this. And I'm trying to, really inculcate this in my daughter as well, to trust herself and to believe in her abilities before anybody tells her anything. You don't need it from the outside world. You know it yourself. And you have
Coming
to be your
in.
own hero in a way, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
That's my
that.
lesson. Be your own hero.
I love that reminder. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
So important because I
Yeah.
can
And
totally
we don't get it
relate.
enough, we don't get
No,
it
we don't
enough.
get,
So,
yeah, we don't get it enough. Yeah.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
I was just actually writing about it the other day. The whole perfectionism, how it's stopping us, and it connects to, this
yes,
self-sabotage and all of those that stopping ourselves, imposter syndrome. All of that is connected because
exactly. And for women, it's huge.
yeah, it's huge. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
love that. I
yeah.
can totally relate that to that personally myself. Thank you
Oh,
for sharing that. So needed. So needed. Beautiful, beautiful. So I want to go. I want to take it back to your business, and with your
yeah.
current business situation. And how do you feel where you are right now, and what are the ways that you can bring this to the wider audience? Because I think what you're doing is just so important for the future of humanity, for our new generations, for our daughters, our grandkids, our sons, right? And what are your plans to bring it to the wider audience?
Currently, I run a business called Everyday Phenomenal, and Everyday Phenomenal is a sustainable women's wear brand, and we create these um, wardrobe staples that you can like something like what I'm wearing, like a sweatshirt, and then you can wear that with jeans or their t-shirts. So it's very easy, very beautiful, very simple clothing, but it feels super soft. It honestly feels like a hug.
Mm,
And my whole idea was
nice.
to create a brand that is easy to wear, that can already be in a woman's wardrobe, but also that really makes a woman feel good from inside and out. So that's why the name Everyday Phenomenal. That's why there's a star. Each point is actually a point of a day in a week. There's 7 points, showing that not each day is the same, but our life can still look perfect, with the ups and
Mhm.
downs. So with Everyday Phenomenal, there's a
Love
lot of
that.
support on the wellness aspect. So it's all about working on yourself from inside to look good outside. And I kind of started this brand because as a mother, I started talking to a lot of moms, and I felt that moms were already rushed and stressed, and they never had enough time. And they always felt that they were on, catching up. And I thought, okay, I want to create a brand that would be easy for them to wear, but also be that friend that provides them that push, that hug when you need to. So that was my initial idea with Everyday Phenomenal. And still, I sell online and I do pop ups and stuff like that. But as I said to you earlier, with my work in sustainability, being a sustainable fashion consultant and talking on so many forums and going into schools and all of that, and now sustainability is something that everybody's talking about it. But then how does
Mhm.
sustainability get incorporated in businesses or in the wider audience? And one of the ways that I want to do it is in three different categories. I want to get into schools. So I do school talks and green carpets and all of that. And now I'm getting into schools and actually
Nice.
helping them create sustainable sportswear, or
Mhm.
sustainable uniforms, because I feel like uniforms are filled with polyester. I mean, they have toxins, they are awful. So I want to kind of get into that space. I'm also talking to corporates for corporate gifting, for events that they do, for big charity races, a lot of banks do. And they produce these t-shirts and they're made in China and they all go in landfill, you know? So why can't we produce a well-made, sustainable t-shirt that, or a giveaway that they're doing? Then again, I'm getting into hospitality. There's so many cafes and I would say restaurants they have their own merchandise and they have their aprons and they have different tote bags and all of that. So I want to kind of take sustainability and not just say that, hey, we're sustainable because we are offsetting a carbon footprint by planting X trees. I mean, if you're a corporate or whatever, then actually have it in the core of your business, that looking at your suppliers, procurement. Why aren't you looking at where you're procuring your items from? So I want to actually change that mindset and say that, hey, if you want to be sustainable, then look into all these other factors. And I want to bring sustainability on the mainstream. So when somebody at a school, let's say, is now getting a rugby sweatshirt and they say organic cotton, OQ-Tex certified, fairly made, and it's a kid who's 9 years old or 8 years old, they start thinking that way, they start looking at labels, they start thinking about what sustainability is. And then, they start getting on that bandwagon. I mean, so I feel like this is what my
Amazing.
dream is. And
Yes.
already I think, so many young people are sustainable. They really want to make sure that they're fair to the environment. They ask so many questions, but if they're provided with everyday items that they can be sustainable with, imagine how the entire mindset is going to change, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I want to do now.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm
Thank you.
listening to you and I'm hearing that passion in your voice that all the future, the vision is big, and I love that. I love that. And how it's gonna change and the
Thank
population,
you.
the growing up. I love that. Beautiful, beautiful work. Anything else before we move on to our rapid fire questions?
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like, for women out there who listen to this, I would just say that, whatever you're doing or, whatever your passion is, just go for it. One should not care whether, it's going to be super successful, but you should kind of start where you are and see where it gets you to. But start,
Exactly.
don't get stuck,
Yes.
just start. Yeah.
Start somewhere. Yes. Yeah, because once we
Yeah.
start moving, the
Yeah.
new doors open up, all this starts,
Yeah.
things start moving
Yeah.
when we take action. I love
Exactly.
that. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. So next one, we have rapid fire
Not
questions.
at all.
And are you ready? Perfect. My first question is, your favorite book name is?
To Kill a Mockingbird. I read it ages ago in school, and it's something that it's just so beautifully written, and it's something that it's one of my favorites.
Yes, 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 yes. Love that book. Beautiful.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
classic. Yeah. Beach or mountains?
definitely beach. Definitely beach.
Favorite international destination to visit?
Oh my God, I have so many. What can I tell you? I have too many, but I think something that's coming to my mind right now, because my daughter talks about it all day, is Greece.
Greece. Nice. Okay, summer or winter?
100 million% summer. I live in London. Come on. I never see the sun.
Okay, and then my final question is things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
Patience. I have a lot of patience, I feel. I actually am not a patient person, but I've now really discovered that I've become really patient.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I've discovered about myself in these last couple of months.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll be sharing information on how to connect with Ayesha, how to find her. Again, Ayesha, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your
Thank you.
passion. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
No, same. Thank you for the opportunity. I would love to connect with more women. And this is such a great way to, reach out to a different audience in a different country. So I'm really excited for this. Thank you so much, Ellie.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.